The first time people see it, they think it's fake. One branch covered in deep red flowers, another exploding with bright yellow blooms, and right beside them a soft pink flower opening on the very same plant. It looks impossible, almost unnatural. Neighbors stop and stare. Visitors ask the same question again and again. How can one plant grow so many different colors? And most gardeners never realize that this magic is not magic at all. It is an ancient technique so powerful that professional gardeners have used it for centuries to create rare plants that look like they came from another world. But here's the strange part. Most home gardeners fail the first time they try it. Some plants dry out completely. Some grafts never join together. Others survive for a few days and then suddenly die without warning. And because of that, many people believe multicolor grafting is only for experts. But the truth is very different. Once you understand what the plant actually needs, the process becomes surprisingly simple. Everything begins with one healthy plant. Not the flowers, not the fertilizer. The base plant is the real secret, because this single plant will become the foundation that feeds every future branch, every flower, every new color. If the plant is weak, diseased, or stressed, the grafts will struggle from the beginning. This is why experienced gardeners never rush this step. They choose a strong, actively growing hibiscus or rose plant with thick green stems and healthy leaves. A plant that is already full of life. Because grafting is not just attaching branches together. It is forcing two separate plants to behave like one living system. And that only works when the foundation is powerful enough to support the extra growth. Now here comes the fascinating part. The colorful branches you want to add are called scions. These are small cuttings taken from other varieties. Maybe one red hibiscus, one yellow hibiscus, one orange hibiscus. Each branch carries the genetic memory of its own flower color. That means if the graft succeeds, the branch will continue producing its original flowers forever, even while growing on another plant. This is what makes the results so unbelievable. One root system, many flower personalities. One plant, multiple identities. But timing changes everything. Most failed grafts happen because gardeners ignore the season. Plants are living organisms. They have active periods and resting periods. During extreme winter or intense heat, the sap movement slows down and healing becomes difficult. The best time for grafting is usually when the plant is actively growing, when fresh green stems are appearing and energy is flowing strongly inside the plant. This is when the plant can heal wounds quickly and connect tissues before the graft dries out. And this next step is where the real magic begins. A sharp blade, one clean cut, no hesitation, because rough cuts damage the delicate cambium layer hidden just beneath the bark. This thin green layer is the lifeline of the plant. It transports nutrients and water throughout the stems. If the cambium layers of the two plants do not touch correctly, the graft fails. That's why experienced grafters care more about alignment than anything else. Not tape, not fertilizer, alignment. The moment those living layers connect, the healing process starts. For hibiscus, one of the easiest and most effective methods is V-grafting. A healthy branch on the root plant is cut into a V shape. Then, the scion branch is trimmed carefully into a matching wedge. When inserted together properly, they fit almost like puzzle pieces. The connection must feel tight and secure. Too loose, and air enters the wound. Too tight, and the tissues get crushed. Once positioned correctly, the entire graft is wrapped firmly with grafting tape or soft plastic. This wrapping protects moisture and prevents the cut from drying before healing begins. And then comes the hardest part for most gardeners, waiting. Because for the next several days, nothing dramatic happens outside. No giant flowers, no explosive growth, just silence. But inside the plant, an invisible battle is happening. Cells begin multiplying around the wound, tiny vascular. Connections slowly form between the two branches. The plant is deciding whether to accept the new branch or reject it completely. Too much sunlight during this period can dry the graft. Too much water can weaken the plant. Strong winds can disturb the connection before healing finishes. This is why patience becomes more important than skill. Then one morning, it happens. Tiny green buds appear on the grafted branch. The leaves stay fresh instead of wilting. And weeks later, when the first flower opens, the result feels almost unreal. One side blooming red, another yellow, another pink. A single plant transformed into a living bouquet. Rose grafting creates an even more dramatic effect because roses naturally attract attention from a distance. Imagine one rose bush producing white roses, deep crimson. Roses, bright orange roses, and soft peach flowers all at once. It becomes the centerpiece of the entire garden, and surprisingly, the process is very similar. Strong rootstock, healthy scions, precise cuts, tight cambium contact, patience. But here is something many beginners do not know. Not all varieties are compatible with each other. Some roses join easily, others struggle to heal together. Some hibiscus varieties grow aggressively and dominate weaker branches, stealing more nutrients and sunlight. This means balance matters. If one branch grows too fast, it may need pruning so the other colors can survive. Multicolor. Grafting is not a one-time trick. It becomes a living system that needs management over time. And the psychological impact of these plants is fascinating. People naturally love rarity. When visitors see something they have never seen before, curiosity instantly activates. That is why multicolor plants spread so quickly on social media. They look impossible at first glance. Many viewers assume they're edited images or artificial flowers, but when they realize it is real, fascination turns into obsession. Gardeners begin imagining endless possibilities, red and white roses together, 3 hibiscus colors on one stem, even entire rainbow combinations. The plant becomes more than decoration, becomes conversation. But behind every successful graft is failure. Most expert grafters have killed dozens of branches learning proper technique. Some grafts rot because tools were dirty. Others fail because the scion dried before joining. Sometimes heavy rain destroys healing tissue overnight. Even professionals lose grafts regularly. And this is important because many beginners quit too early. They expect perfection on the first attempt. But plants do not work like machines. They respond to temperature, moisture, timing, stress, and countless invisible biological factors. Every failed graft teaches something valuable about plant behavior. One of the biggest mistakes beginners make is choosing very old woody branches. Older stems heal slower and have reduced flexibility. Younger semi-hardwood branches usually connect faster because their cells are more active. Another mistake is exposing the graft directly to harsh afternoon sun immediately after grafting. Newly joined tissues lose moisture extremely fast. Partial shade during recovery gives the plant a much higher survival chance. Humidity also plays a surprisingly important role. In dry conditions, scions can lose water before vascular connections form. This is why some gardeners cover grafts loosely with transparent plastic for the first few days to create a mini-humid environment around the wound. Too much humidity, however, can encourage fungal problems. So balance becomes everything again. And then there's pruning, the secret weapon most people underestimate. After successful grafting, unwanted shoots from the rootstock should be removed regularly. Otherwise, the original plant may focus its energy on its own branches instead of supporting the grafted colors. Skilled gardeners constantly guide the plant S-energy like traffic controllers directing movement. Every cut changes growth patterns. Every removed shoot redirects nutrients somewhere else. Over time, something remarkable happens. The plant stops looking like separate grafted branches and begins appearing like a naturally multicolored plant. The scars fade. The stems thicken. New branches emerge. Seasons pass. And eventually, the plant becomes more beautiful than anyone expected when the process first began. But perhaps the most satisfying part of all is realizing that you created something unique with your own hands. No expensive machinery, no laboratory. Just understanding how living plants heal and connect. 2 separate plants becoming one. It almost feels symbolic. Different colors, different genetics, different identities, surviving together through a shared root system. And once gardeners experience one successful graft, they rarely stop there. Suddenly every plant becomes an experiment. Can white and red combine? Can double petal varieties work together? Can one side flower earlier than the other? The garden transforms into a place of endless curiosity. Every successful bloom feels earned because it came from patience instead of instant results. That is why multicolor grafting never loses its charm. Even after centuries, it still feels magical because humans are watching nature break its own visual rules. One plant should produce one flower color. That is what our brains expect. But grafting bends that expectation. It creates living contradictions that force people to look twice. And maybe that is why these plants become unforgettable. They remind us that nature is far more flexible than it first appears. Beneath every branch is a hidden system carrying water, nutrients, hormones, and energy in perfect silence. When those systems are guided carefully, something extraordinary happens. A plain garden corner becomes a spectacle. An ordinary hibiscus becomes a multicolor masterpiece. A simple rose bush becomes a living work of art. And somewhere in that transformation, gardening stops feeling like a hobby and starts feeling like creation itself.